Today's the day, Shawnee. It
What's
is
that?
the last day. This episode has been released on Monday morning. By midnight tonight, the lines are closed for the Barcelona marathon trip. We have our initial group. We are going to be booking flights and marathon tickets for Barcelona Paddy's Weekend 2025. If you are sitting on the fence and want to be part of the group to avail of the prices at this point, you need to get your deposit paid today. If you're listening to this podcast, sorry if you're under pressure, but by midnight tonight, the flights will be booked first thing Tuesday morning as you're listening to this podcast. So for those of you who still want to join, please do. For those who may want to push it down the road, we cannot guarantee prices, hotels, flights, etc. But we're more than happy for people to reach out if they do decide in the future to join us on this fantastic trip.
Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee, we're back.
Another week, and the heat, I suppose, for you and the running and the lack of running. Next week I'm back running. The leg will be 100% next week I'm back running. I'm stuck on the bike at the moment, but there's been bigger and better things going on in this country this weekend rather than me suffering the rain going for 60k on a Sunday. So what's been going on?
Did you watch it?
No, I missed it.
Sean.
It wasn't on live. I missed it. Hands up, I missed it.
I have to say, one of the biggest disappointments, RTE, if you're listening, you weren't showing it. I had to watch it on BBC. But the 4x400 relay was the best 3 minutes of my life. It was so good. It was absolutely amazing. I've never jumped, screamed, danced. Like, I think the guys here, my new housemates, thought I was absolutely nuts. I was screaming at my iPad. It was absolutely amazing. For those that didn't watch it, if you don't know, I thought you're listening to the podcast, you have to know that Ireland won gold in the European Championships. Chris O'Donnell, Rashida Adelecki, Thomas Barr, Charlie Mosley put in an amazing performance. It was so good. Like, I can't even describe it. And it's one of those moments in history where, when the commentator is just saying the right things and
Yeah.
you're going to hear that again and again and again over the years. And it was just, it was so good. That final stretch on the turn, and it was just exhilarating. It was the most fun I've had watching athletics in I don't know how long. It was just absolutely amazing. It's nice to win. Don't get me wrong. Our athletes always do us so proud and do a fantastic job. But just the feeling of just watching the Ireland colour just cruising past, like, it was absolutely amazing. It was a great weekend for our sport and other athletes who are still doing it in the boxing and everything else. But I suppose it's the highest profile win, and the gold medal in athletics in the 400 meter was absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. And it's everywhere at the moment. It's like every time I open up Instagram or Facebook, that's there and cross the line. It's in all the papers, and deservedly slow. So like it's absolutely class.
So you can imagine how I feel now when I'm trying to do a zone 2 run at a 7:55 kilometer. And this team ran 1.6 kilometers in 3 minutes. And here's me slugging around here sweating. But look, it is what it is, and a boy can dream, but it's nice to get that extra motivation. And I suppose for all the boys and girls who are like those ambitious athletes who are looking at this and seeing is believing, and it's great. It's great for Irish sports, great for Irish running, it's great for Irish athletics. So it's all around. It's something positive for us to look at.
It's mad how watching a sport and just all of a sudden you become so inspiring. Like, yeah, I can do that. And like you said, going out doing the run, I'm like, no, I can't do that. And I was watching Team Ireland in the High Rocks World Championships. We had Tom Hogan on the podcast last week. I'm like, yeah, I've seen them all doing the sled stuff. Like, oh, I can do that. And I'm looking back to how I was doing the sled, being like, oh no, I wasn't that fast in that sled. No, I probably couldn't. They were doing the burpee broad jumps, Eric, and I don't know High Rocks athletes that well. It was a girl from England. England won it in the end. And the way she was just bunny hopping through them, like, just like awe-inspiring. And I'm saying on the podcast, because we do it publicly, my arm's been twisted all week from the feedback from that podcast. But after watching that this week, today, I was like, I'm going to have to do one of these events down the line. I put it out there, just like you put it out there before an Ironman. I put it out there. I have to do one of these High Rocks at least once to experience it because of how much of an endurance sport it is. And it seems to be a nice little thing to do in the off season. But enough about me and you. We've got a great episode coming up this week in the podcast.
Talk about modesty from athletes. This is probably one of the most modest athletes we've come across, and it is about talking about the fundamentals of why sport is so good, why sport is the place we want to put our times because how it makes us feel, and everyone just trying their best. And it's coming from someone who has been at a top level and is still being so humble enough to just talk about people running their first 10Ks and just enjoying sport, enjoying what sport gives you. It is a humbling episode. It's a great episode, and it has everything you want.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Let's go. So this week on the Any Given Runday podcast, we have an Irish Olympian, European cross-country champion, winner of London, Berlin and Amsterdam marathons, and current Irish marathon holder, as well as a sought-after fitness trainer, ChiRunning instructor and motivational speaker. Catherina McKiernan, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. How are you getting on?
Very good, Sean. Thank you for having me on.
I'm tired after just hearing the accolades. Never mind talking about the training element. What a CV you have, Katrina. How did you even start in something like this?
Yeah, well, it was all very simple, I suppose, Eric. I grew up on a farm in Cavan, and I'm the youngest of 7, and there wasn't much to do, actually, only run around the fields at home. And I did that from a very young age with no expectations to run in races or anything like that. I just ran because I loved the feeling of confidence and well-being that it gave me just from a very young age, and was very active. We would cycle everywhere we had to go. We'd swim in the lakes. We'd play football, camogie, all of that sort of thing. And then in my last year at secondary school, there was an athletic club set up, and I loved all sports, and I went to school for the sports, wasn't for the academics. I went on to win the All-Ireland schools, and from there it really took off. I hadn't really competed much before that at all. I didn't like the idea of competing, and I was 18 at that stage. And I think that was a good thing because it was me that made the decision. It wasn't like as if my parents were bringing me to athletics from the age of 8. And I got a coach then after the All-Ireland schools, or a little while after that, and Joe Doonan coached me all during my career. And things started to take shape. I started to train properly. He put structure into my training, and I progressed very, very quickly.
Were the school in your last year doing that, when you won, they weren't happy with you because you were on the camogie team, is that right?
Yeah, so Sean, what happened there was I got into the Ulster Schools. The Ulster Schools Cross Country Championship was on the same day as the team got into the, I don't know, was it the semi-final or the final of the Ulster Camogie? And I chose, unfortunately, like it was, I suppose it was unfortunate that the two had to clash, but I chose the running, and I won the running, and the girls lost the camogie, so they weren't very happy with me. And then the PE teacher, she wasn't very happy either, and she banned me from running around the school, and said that I couldn't run in the All-Ireland Schools cross country championships. And I suppose the media, Tom Reardon at the time, got a hold of that and put pressure on the school a little bit. But anyway, they retrieved, and I got to run. And I felt in the couple of weeks leading up to it, I felt a little bit of pressure because of the hassle. And I felt that, okay, I have to win this just to prove a point. And thankfully I did.
I'd want to be the fly on the wall to see the teacher's face when you come back with the All-Ireland medal then.
But it was funny. She was a nice person, but she wasn't that much, like she was only in her 20s and that. And we had a Cavan Road League going on at the same time. And I used to beat her in those races, and maybe she didn't like it.
It's all coming out now.
Ban you from running so she could beat you the next time. That makes a lot of sense. That's actually, she's playing a long game in that one, but it didn't work out for her.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it was, it was all good. And then, as I said, Joe put structure into my training, and I began to win national senior titles, and found myself going abroad and being able to win races abroad. And so that was 88. And then I won my first silver medal in the World Cross Country Championships in Boston in 92. And then went on to win 3 other silver medals. Always the bridesmaid, I was called. But people often ask me, like, would I change 4 of those silver medals for 1 gold? And to be honest, no, because I gave people a lot of joy over 4 consecutive years. And it was different people that beat me in all of those races. And the World Cross Country back then was a big, big race. Everybody from 800 meters to marathon used to run in it. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It's a silver medal in a very competitive field, and a feat that people hadn't seen really before. Like from a female athlete doing it that consistently for that many years. You're kind of paving the way for athletics, really, weren't you?
Yeah, well, Sonia Sullivan was around at the same time. There's only 2 days in the difference, so Sonia would run very well on the track and fly the flag during the track season, and then in the winter months I was flying the flag over cross country. So yeah, it was a very, very good time for Irish athletics back then. But equally now there's a lot of very good athletes, and a lot of them able to compete in the European and world stage, and it's an exciting time for Irish athletics.
Did it help you going from cross country marathon running? Is that like the different distances and the terrain? Is that like a completely different sport? And should that be something people should do more of now instead of just concentrating on, let's say, marathons every year?
Yeah, well, look, it depends on what people like. I always say, do what you enjoy doing, do what you're good at, do what you're best at. And for me, that was my path. And I suppose I did prefer, though, the longer distances, and the cross country was only 6 kilometers. So that was a sprint. And I loved the transition then when I stopped doing the cross country. I loved doing the longer training, and I was more at ease with it. I was more in control of the longer intervals and the long runs and the threshold runs.
Myself and Sean have this one thing where we say we would rather run a marathon probably 2 days in a row than do a 5K best effort. Do you share that same opinion?
Yeah, and a lot of people would. Like, a lot of people, 5K, it depends on the person's makeup, but a 5K is challenging. There's no, you don't have any time to settle. Whereas in a 10 miler or a half marathon, you have time to make mistakes and you have time to get into your rhythm. Whereas it's very speed orientated, the 5K. So it's a little bit more uncomfortable.
If like for the likes of me, it's the most uncomfortable I've ever been doing anything. I think is a 5K best effort. Like, I know we have athletes like yourself on who are, some are doing 14 minutes, some are doing 16 minutes. Like, even trying to break a sub 20 for me, I thought it was the end of the world for those last 600 meters. And coming off doing marathons, I was like, I would do a marathon any day. What made you switch?
Well, that was always going to be the case. I did the cross country, and then I suppose when I started training, first of all, I went to Trinity to get tested on the treadmill just to see what it was about. And they noticed from the very first test that I was made for the long haul. But I felt that it was important, and Joe, my coach, felt that it was important that we would do the shorter stuff first of all and get a good grounding and a good base on the shorter stuff. And I think it did make the longer intervals and the marathon and the half marathons easier. But you need to have that foundation rather than just going into marathon racing at 22, 23, 24 years of age. It's a little bit too young. So in 1998, I won London. And they have a thing over there now where they get their pass winners over, a different pass winner every year, or a couple of them, and they get them to plant a tree just in honor. And I was over there last year. So that was a nice gesture. And I don't know how many years it was, but that doesn't matter. But
I do have to ask, I know it's many years ago, but do you still remember the feeling of winning a London Marathon?
Do you remember the feel? Remember the feeling of relief, because it was relief. There was a lot of pressure on in the build up to it, and I had won Berlin in a fast time, and there was a lot of pressure, and you never know how a marathon is going to go. And I suppose I ran races, to be honest, Eric, I ran races for other people. I didn't realize that until more recent times. I felt myself in a situation, I had people helping me out, and I had sponsors, and I suppose the family and the people in the area, they were all supporting me. And I did feel it, I did feel the pressure of that. I didn't want to let them down. And so they were my driving force, though, at the same time. When I was feeling uncomfortable in training or in races, I would think of all those people that were supporting me, and in general, the people around the country, because I knew I had a lot of support. And it's just the nature of an individual, isn't it, whereby you don't want to let people down, and you feel unworthy if you don't do well in a race, and which is a little bit silly, to be honest, but that's the way I felt. And it was always a great sense of relief when I did win a race, particularly the London Marathon, because there was high expectations there, and to be able to run 26 kilometers or 26 miles and deliver the goods on the day, it was a great sense of relief. But I would like to, the athletes nowadays, we shouldn't put pressure on them, or they shouldn't put pressure on themselves, because it only takes from the performance. And I know when you're in that bubble, it's difficult to think otherwise, but at the end of the day, that you're going to do your best. And that's a point I suppose I would try to get across to people running any races, is prepare as best you possibly can, and know on the day that you're going to give it 110%. And I think when you do that and get into that mindset, you can't be disappointed. And I know, with the Olympics coming up, a lot of athletes, they're looking forward to it and they're excited, but at the same time, they're very, very nervous because they're afraid of the outcome. But all you can do is your best. And once you do that, you have to be content within yourself.
If I was to run the local 5K or 10K and I was to win it, I would have a Throwback Thursday Instagram posting that every week for the rest of my life and be bragging it to no end. But one look at your Instagram and you could go back years, and there's not much mention of your marathon wins, all your your 4 second place medals in the cross country and stuff like that. There's more mention of enjoying the process. You talk about you didn't really enjoy the moments as much as you should have, and that the joy is in the journey. When did you get that mind shift change? Like, I'm assuming that was after you had won all those marathons. Was that further on the running, or when did that come to you?
I suppose if you ask any sports person, Sean, it is, you realize that it's only fleeting moments, and that there's a lot of, I don't mean to bring it down, but by me winning those races, it's not as if everybody has challenges in life, and you realize that, they're only moments, that they're in the past. And we must try and live in the present and just enjoy every moment, every day. And that's the way I try to live now. And with the classes and coaching, I don't like using that word coaching at all, but helping people out, I just want to get that across to them, that enjoy the session this evening, and enjoy your park runs on a Saturday, or enjoy the half marathons or the 10Ks or whatever you're going to do, and not think too much about the future. And yes, it's more in more recent times that and most sports people would say that their past experiences or their past victories, they're in the past, and it's not something that's going to get you through the bad days and the days that's a little bit challenging.
And it's like that with most athletes, I suppose, when you talk about that bubble. And even like when we look at people who we've had on that podcast, we talk about, you've just won, you've just done this. And they're like, yeah, but next week I'm going to here. And then my plan for December. So they're already not living in that moment. They're already, what's the next race? What's the next training plan? And I suppose it's probably the nature of the beast of being involved in that bubble and trying to be that perform star that you want to be, or you probably dreamt of when you put on a green jersey, and you're always thinking of the next thing. How can I improve? And I suppose it's the nature of it, really, isn't it? It's hard not to think like that when you are a successful athlete.
Yeah, but I think from my experience and other past athletes, I think that's the point we should try and get across to the present day athletes, to enjoy the moment. And
Yeah.
And that's because it's a mistake I made. I was always thinking of, getting home as quickly as I could so that I could get back into training for the next event, rather than, taking a couple of days, going exploring the city that I was in, and then coming back and getting back into it again. But, so that's what I would say to the athletes. Just really enjoy the training process, take all the opportunities that you can, take it all in, because it's a very, very short time and there's a lot of living to do afterwards.
What's ChiRunning?
So it's basically
I've heard of chai tea. I've never heard of ChiRunning.
So the chai or the chi, whichever way you want to pronounce it, it's the flow of energy through our body. And we all have energy. We all have chi in our body. It can't be quantified, but it's there. And how we can tap in on it is by good posture, good alignment, and relaxation. So it's good mechanics to running to make running easier on yourself, so there's less impact on your body. And posture is the cornerstone, and landing more efficiently, and keeping everything nice and free and loose and open, letting that energy flow through rather than holding tension in the body and restricting. So smile, relax, and enjoy the journey.
I tell you what, I reckon I could break you if I gave you Sean for a month. If you've ever heard two cinder blocks running down the road, it's definitely Sean Coffey. How at this stage, and it is something that's different, and science is changing. How to land, the shoes are different. We've all kind of Nikes and Pumas and Hokas now. And how do you, as a 30-year-old, as we are 30-year-olds, and people who are listening, how do you start to change your way of running? How can you start changing your gait? How do you start thinking about these things? What's the basic first steps in this?
Okay, Eric, the first step is, do you want to change?
Yeah.
Well, I do now, because I have to now after what Eric said. Yeah, I've cinder blocks for feet, so I suppose I have to change.
I know, but being honest, it's something I'm very aware. What people always say to me is, I'm 192 centimeters, so people always say, "Oh, but you take 2 steps for every step I take." But my stride is really, really small for such a big guy, and it's not efficient at all, and I heel strike. So I am conscious. I want to change, and then I get tired, and then I revert back to exactly what I've been doing all of those years. So that's where I am with it.
30 years isn't so much. Imagine people in their 50s and 60s. But no, look, it's very easy to change, and like that, it's if you want to change, that's why I asked you. I wasn't being funny, but you have to want to do something. You have to want to put in the little bit of effort. And what I show people is the posture, a shorter stride when they're running, so that their feet are landing underneath their body. And it's a little bit difficult to explain it, but a lot of people hold tension in the front of their ankle. So when they hit the ground, they're hitting it with their heel first, and that puts a lot of pressure on the feet, on the calves, on the shins, and on the knees. So I get people to just have their feet landing underneath their body and relax the front of their ankle joint. So if you can imagine, your wrist is your ankle joint. So rather than having tension in the wrist, just have it relaxed. And then your foot will land the way it's supposed to land. So it eliminates that heel strike. And feeling your center of mass ahead of your foot strike. So rather than, okay, we need to keep the spine straight, but rather than being in a back upright position, you want to allow your whole body to fall forward as a unit from your ankles, so that your center of mass is ahead of your foot strike. Like little ones running along, you always think that they're going to fall over. But as we get older, as we get older, we come back into a rigid upright position. So you want to just feel yourself falling forward ever so slightly with that short step underneath the body, and just allowing the stride to come out behind as opposed to hitting your feet in front of you.
And is that why they say running up hills and stuff? I don't know as a part of the training plan, but because you are naturally leaning forward, your foot is striking in the way it should be. Is that kind of a good muscle memory technique for people when they're doing hills, because they're actually feeling what it's like to lean forward, what it's like to strike properly? Is that part of the game? Is that part of what we should be looking at?
Yeah, exactly, Eric. You get the feel of, so hills is great. Hills is great for running. Up and down hills is really, really good, and you get into a better position. The body gets into a better position when you're running up a hill. But even just practicing the drills, walking around in everyday life, when you're walking, rather than throwing your feet out in front of you, when you're walking, you should drop your eyes, not your head, just drop your eyes and make sure you cannot see the front of your shoes. The same way when you're running, so that if you can see the front of your shoes, it means that your stride is too far out in front of you. So we want it underneath the body. So just even practicing these things, I found the more you practice it in everyday life, the quicker you're able to bring it into your running.
Sean is going to be moonwalking around the kitchen now, and his missus is going to be killing him.
When you're looking at someone's running mechanics stuff, it seems, I suppose the obvious answer probably is the answer. You're looking at the feet and stuff first to this, or is there hips and stuff that come into it as well? Would you normally see in terms of people's most common mistakes?
Yeah. So another thing I get people to do is to level their pelvis. So just have a little awareness in their lower abs, and imagine when you're running. Okay, imagine you're zipping up a tight pair of trousers. So that feeling of leveling the pelvis, so that your core muscles are engaged. And again, this takes the pressure off the lower back and the lower extremities. So so the posture and the landing, there will be the two key elements, and the relaxation.
One of the ways people get to relax is breathing, deep breathing. And you talk about one thing that I can never get my head around doing is the nasal breathing during running, or the big one deep breath through the nose and two through the mouth. Is that something you recommend people to slow down, try and do, or is that individual?
Yeah, so nose breathing, there's a lot of scientific evidence. I can't explain it, but there is a lot of evidence to prove that it's the most efficient way to breathe. And they even go as far as saying that you can get the benefits like as if you're at altitude training if you practice it long enough. So again, isn't there Patrick McKiernan? I think he does a lot on that. And again, that takes practice. But in your easy runs, or when you're out walking, or in everyday life, if you practice nose breathing, or even to go as far as taping people's mouths at nighttime to practice, so that you breathe through your nose. So that's another great aspect, and it's something people should practice. But with all of this, you have to have patience and introduce it gradually.
It definitely does take time. And even when we talk about like heart rate training, or where you're training in specific zones and stuff, one thing I found about the deep breath through the nose, when I'd find my heart rate running away from me, I'd remind myself, take a deep breath through the nose, because it does kind of trick the nervous system to tell you nothing is trying to kill you. And for me, I'll do it for maybe 100 meters and just really just take a deep breath through the nose and relax. And I could probably take about 7 or 8 beats per minute off my heart rate from just like that. There's more to it, I suppose, and as you said, there is science to it. But even I've found little tricks by just trying different things on long runs and trying to relax myself, as you said, and it is partially about being relaxed.
Yeah, and all of, it's about consistency. I think you use that word, Eric, being consistent with all of this, and not just trying it for a couple of days and feeling, oh, this is no good. I think it's, you have to be, you're not going to get fit in a couple of days. So everything takes practice and consistency and patience. There are words we use a lot for running.
You're very modest in your accomplishments, but you're also very open-minded in terms of like taping around the mouth for breathing is only something I've heard in the last year or two. How much has changed over 25 years, but doesn't need to change? Like, are we focusing on too much science stuff, or is it time to go with the times, do you think?
Things improve all the time. As I say, the cars 20 years ago aren't anything like the cars that we have now. And but at the end of the day, with running, I think we have got a little bit too complicated with things. And, if we're talking to and about club runners, it's about just, again, having that consistency and not listening to too many people. I was talking to a guy today, and we were just talking about marathon training, and, he was firing this stuff out, different things that you can do. And I just said to him, look, there's 40 shades of green. there's many ways to do it. There's no way that's right. There's no way that's wrong. So it's whatever works for you. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. It's, that you trust the process, that what you do and, you feel that is right for you. So there's just so much out there now. There's so much information that it's mind-boggling. But at the end of the day, with running, it's about getting those miles in. If we take for any race, really, it's about preparing and getting the miles in, getting the consistency, getting the quality in, and you are going to improve. And not listening to too many people, because, your head would be done in.
I feel like almost naked if I haven't got the Garmin on and I haven't got my heart rate monitor on, and like we've bought into the technology side of things. And I suppose it's one thing, it's if you were involved in the club, you knew how to run, you knew how to manage yourself. You had great people like you who were guiding younger people and kind of giving them tips and guidance of how to do this. But when you have like the individuals like me and Sean, who we haven't been part of a club, we just show up, we train off Garmin, we do this. So there is, I suppose, some benefit that more people are running. But then, as you've correctly said, there's the other side of it where we could be gone too far into the numbers and losing that enjoyment. Because if I forget my watch, there's this saying now, if it wasn't on Strava, did it really happen? I feel guilty for 21K and going, it's not going to be on there. It's just, it is a big difference when, I suppose, like you said back in the day, you just went running around the fields because it was fun, it was nice, and and I suppose people are now telling people for one day in the week, just run without your watch, just get out and enjoy running.
Yes, yeah, and look, it's whatever people want. We can't judge people. Some people love the Garmin and love sharing what they've done, or Strava, I should say, and it's whatever you're content with. It's whatever you're happy with. It's whatever you feel within yourself that's helping you to progress. And I think if you can get a good, healthy run at it and you don't get sick or you don't get injured, there's no doubt that you're going to improve. And, I did all the things. I did all the training at altitude, and I did as much as I possibly could. And most athletes are like that. They would train 3 times a day if they could, if their body would allow them to do that. And it's just with running, unfortunately, you have to be sensible about it and get the recovery and get the good blocks of training in, and trying to peak at the right time for the races. So there is a little bit of science behind it in that respect. But if you're at a club level, not to take it or yourself too serious, but at the same time, you do want to get the best out of yourself. And I think if you enjoy it and trust whatever you're doing, that's right for you, you will get the results that you want.
You talk about traveling there for altitude training and stuff like that. You're also traveling at the start of this month for Portugal, Algarve, I should say, for a running retreat. How did you get on there doing that?
Yeah, it was very good, Sean. It was that was my first one, and the group were really, really good, and everybody gelled. And we had, we did training every day, and maybe went out and did a little bit twice a day. And the weather was nice, and we were right beside a track. And some of the group, they had never run on a track before, so it was a great novelty for them. And it was very, very special. And a lot of them have kept in contact since, and they have met up at races and are going to meet up at races during the summertime. So I think it's important when you get a group like that together that gel and have a bit of fun, and everybody share their own experiences. So it was all round. It was a very, very enjoyable few days.
For me or not me personally, that I'd be able to organize something like that, I would feel pressure for organizing someone's holiday for anything at all, even if it's the better half. Like, we're going here, but for you to do that for a couple of days, and you had it set out for like one day you were doing mindset and nutrition and all the rest. No kind of pressure like you felt during race days on that. It was just enjoying.
Yeah, no, look, I never, I didn't, I didn't, look, I enjoyed it, and I knew everything would fall into place, but talking about getting nervous on race days, I didn't really get nervous, funny enough. No, I prepared well. And as I said earlier, that was my way of coping with it, knowing that I had done 110% in training, and knowing that on the day of the race that I was I couldn't have run a half a second faster. Then, that prevented me from getting nervous before races, because I felt, I was in control of it to a certain extent because I had the training done. And also I knew that I was going to run myself to exhaustion. And I knew that I was going to be too tired to be disappointed.
When you're looking at training people now, and obviously you're looking at the holistic approach to running now, you're looking at the gait and people are running. How do you take someone now? Is it only with clubs you do, or your coaching or guidance, as you call it? What way does it work for people if they want to get involved with someone like yourself or to get guidance from someone like yourself?
Yeah, so I have a couple of groups going, Eric. I have a Monday evening group. I have a Wednesday morning group. I have a Wednesday evening group. And I have a Thursday evening group as well. And then on a Saturday, I do a group, but that's only once off. But the other are continuous groups, and we can train all year round.
And what kind of targets do they set, or is it?
Yeah. So they're people.
Like is it more
people,
the ethos of just enjoy it?
Yes, yeah, very much so. But at the same time, it's the nature of the human being. You enjoy, but at the same time, you want to get the most out of yourself. And they all run anything from 5K park runs to 10 milers, half marathons, and they go to different places in Ireland and abroad, and they it's a social outlet for them. And it's very, very enjoyable, and I get great satisfaction knowing that they're enjoying themselves.
And is there anything you would have a goal for yourself, or is the goal setting days done for you in terms of races to run, or are you still showing up to more races and taking part and still trying to get the best out of yourself?
No, Eric, I have finally let it go. And it took a long while. It was a process. I just love to, go out for little runs myself and help the people in the groups. It did take, to be honest, and yeah, it's not funny really, but it did take a long time to let it go. And thank God that eventually I was able to do that. And
it must be difficult. And it is when most professional athletes, footballers, that transitional period from something you've done day in, day out is underestimated of being probably one of the most difficult transitions you can do.
Yeah, and I did try 2 races just to enjoy them, and it didn't work for me because I know no way to run a race other than run hard, run to exhaustion, and they weren't very enjoyable experiences just to be running around and not pushing the body. So yeah, and I don't look, and I don't, maybe it is ego, but I wouldn't get any, and look, I don't mean to offend anybody in saying this, but I would get no satisfaction in running a 5K and coming in 20 minutes or something like that. I don't mean to, but I suppose people have to
when you come from
it.
that level. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I did try to do that, but no, it doesn't work. But I do I admire people, running marathons, and I think they're brilliant. And there was one guy in the group, he actually did 52 kilometers, wasn't it, or more? I don't know. He did a big, long, maybe more of an ultra run. And it's phenomenal that I do admire people that's able to do that.
And as part of that transition, or a nice part of that been moving into the coaching, getting the satisfaction out of other people doing their best effort, has that helped?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's what I get my satisfaction from. And to be honest, isn't there saying that there's no greater joy in life than being able to help other people? And certainly that's a very true saying. I get great satisfaction coming away from the groups and knowing that they're happy, knowing that they enjoyed the session, and seeing people mix and mingle and make friends. There's a lot of satisfaction to get in that, and it's something that I can continue to do for a very long time.
One of the ways you help a lot of people running is your one-day workshops, and you emphasize a lot of safe, efficient, natural running technique. I suppose that comes into running. A quote there I have somewhere, my notes are all over the place, in terms of injury prevention, injury reduction kind of things with that. Does some of that come from cross training, or what would you expect from if if someone listening was to do your one-day workshop, what would they expect to hear?
So, what do we do in the one-day workshop, Sean? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Very long-winded way of saying
Here,
it.
listen, he's having a nightmare. I don't think the lift is going to the top floor with Sean today. He's having a nightmare.
Yeah. So basically what it is, the group that I have, and I only take generally about 12, 14 in a group because it's for a 4-hour period and I want to give everybody lots of attention. And we just go through good posture, we go through landing, we go through arm swing, I get them practicing up and down hills, and it's generally on about 100 and 150 meter strip. And I show them something and get them to practice up and down at their own pace so that nobody feels under pressure. And we talk all running related things, and people have their own experiences to share as well. And, lots of these people would have ran marathons and they share their experiences about what they took on board, like during the race, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, different shoes that worked for people, and all things running related.
If you had you're only allowed to do one Instagram post, and it goes out to all your followers, it goes out to absolutely everyone who's ever done a one-day workshop or trained with you, and you're only allowed to give, let's say 3, let's be nice to this one, 3 bits of running advice. Obviously, it's general for the amount of different people, different types of races to do. What would those 3 bits of advice be? Don't
listen to loads of people. Just have 1 or 2 people that you trust. Obviously, enjoy the journey, and success is doing your best.
Absolutely brilliant. Catherina, we'll have your, what's your website? Run with Catherina, is it .ie?
That's it, yeah.
I was looking at her today. I hope that's the right one. We'll have
run with Catherina.ie. Yes, yeah.
And we'll have that in the show notes, as well as your upcoming workshop dates. Absolutely fantastic having you on, and such a pleasure to listen to you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Eric.
No, it's been absolutely wonderful. And although it's in the past for you, it's very much a privilege to have such a fantastic athlete on with us. And again, to give front row seats to everyone for all your tips and tricks. And hopefully we'll have you on again in the future. And we might even take part. Well, Sean will definitely take part in your running mechanics workshop. Anyway, that's a fact. It's so wonderful to get such humble, honest opinions and great insights to running from such a fantastic athlete. So thanks so much, Catherina. It's been an absolutely amazing
episode. Eric. And enjoy your own running and well, you're in the heat there, Eric, so you have to be careful.
I'll do a 3K. I'll do a 3K and I'll try and enjoy it just for you.
Yeah, very good. All right. Thanks for having me on, lads.
Thank you very much. And that's it from the 3 of us. Take care.